Welcome to this explainer. So, if you're watching this, chances are someone you love has just received a really difficult medical diagnosis. And, I know exactly what happens next. Your immediate, overwhelming instinct as a partner, a family member, or a friend is to step right up and carry the entire burden of that diagnosis squarely on their own shoulders. You want to be the driver, the chef, the late night medical researcher, the house cleaner, and, of course, the unwavering emotional rock. You literally want to protect them from every single harsh wind that comes their way. It's an absolutely beautiful instinct. But today, we're going to tackle exactly why giving into that instinct might actually be the hardest path you can take. To help you navigate all this, we're going to walk through a 6-step blueprint from the New Normal Guide. We'll cover the solo caregiver trap, taking a multidisciplinary approach, building the core circle, delegating explicit roles, moving from doer to director, and finally, equipping your entourage. Let's dive right in. First up, Section 1, the solo caregiver trap. Before we get into any of the logistics, we really just have to look at the psychology of caregiving. We absolutely have to validate that completely natural instinct you have to protect your loved one. When a crisis hits, you suddenly become their everything, right? But here's the harsh reality of it. Running this emotional gauntlet completely alone is a really quick path to burnout. Trying to manage the whole shebang entirely by yourself is just unsustainable for you. And think about it. If you burn out, it ultimately becomes detrimental to the long-term care of the patient. Your loved one doesn't just need one single exhausted hero. They need a reliable, functioning system. So, that brings us to a really crucial question. How do you protect them without completely breaking yourself? It's a heavy question for sure, but it's the exact pivot point we need to shift our focus. We're moving away from the emotional weight and the panic of a diagnosis and shifting toward an actionable, structured strategy. We literally have to change the way we look at caregiving entirely. Let's see how this builds. Okay, Section 2, a multidisciplinary approach. To find the right strategy here, we actually just need to look at how medical professionals handle complex problems. In the medical world, the absolute gold standard of care is something called the tumor board. This is where surgeons, oncologists, radiologists, and various other specialists all gather in one room to co-manage a patient's treatment plan. No single doctor tries to do everything themselves. This is such a brilliant way to illustrate the stark contrast between trying to do everything yourself at home as an exhausted, isolated solo caregiver versus acting as a specialized, multidisciplinary team. To support your loved one at home effectively, you need to mirror this exact medical structure. Basically, you need to build a personal support entourage. Which leads us to Section 3, the core circle. To actually mirror that medical structure at home, we're moving to our first core principle of building your entourage. I mean, we've all seen this exact text message, right? When people hear a friend has been diagnosed, there is this sudden, honestly beautiful wave of messages saying, "Let me know if you need anything." But here is the on-the-ground reality of that well-intentioned message. To a patient or a primary caregiver, managing 50 of these open-ended, wonderfully vague offers is actually exhausting. You simply do not have the mental bandwidth to sit down and figure out chores for 50 different neighbors and coworkers. That brings us to our very first rule, and it's all about this specific number, 3 to 5. We call this the rule of 3 to 5. You need to explicitly limit your core circle to a highly trusted handful of organizers. You're going to bypass that massive crowd of well-wishers entirely and select just 3 to 5 go-to people. Think of them as your personal management team. Instead of the patient trying to figure out what they need from the entire crowd, this core circle steps right in to actively coordinate the wider community. Moving on to Section 4, delegating explicit roles. Because once you actually have your core circle of 3 to 5 trusted people, well, you need to give them a job. Remember, vague help is rarely actually helpful. We have to eliminate the confusion by using explicit delegation. So let's unpack 3 distinct roles here. First up, we've got the logistics lead. This person coordinates the rides, the pharmacy runs, maybe daycare pickups. Second is the comfort coordinator. They're the ones managing the food train and basic house cleaning, making sure you aren't running on empty. And third, the communications chief. Now, this role is absolutely vital. They act as the total gatekeeper for medical updates, managing group text, or maybe an online journal. This shields the patient from having to repeat difficult, emotional medical details over and over again to concerned well-wishers. Let me tell you, turning daily chaos into these repeatable, fixed tasks dramatically reduces everybody's stress. All right, Section 5, from doer to director. This brings us to the third principle, and it tackles one of the absolute hardest hurdles of all, the patient's own mindset. So many patients are natural doers. They're totally used to being independent, maybe they're project managers at work, or super active parents at home. When treatment hits and that deep fatigue sets in, being on the receiving end of help can feel incredibly uncomfortable. They might experience serious caregiver guilt or even refuse help out of pure pride. We really have to reframe the narrative here. We need to empower the patient to act as the director of the entourage. You've got to let them know that accepting help and delegating tasks is absolutely not a sign of weakness. Instead, it's a super intelligent, strategic decision to conserve their limited energy for the one job literally only they can do, which is physical healing. And finally, Section 6, equipping your entourage. To make all of this coordination completely seamless, your core circle is going to need the right tools. All these logistics shouldn't just live in your stressed out brain or get scattered across dozens of random text threads. Utilizing a shared digital space equips the entire entourage for success. The New Normal Guide actually has a free tracking app designed exactly for this. It allows the entourage to easily coordinate appointment schedules, log who is bringing dinner, track those complex medications, and even monitor symptoms. It takes the heavy burden of remembering completely off the caregiver and puts it right into an organized, shared hub. It's a real game changer. So let's review this final checklist, which perfectly summarizes the structured blueprint we've covered today. Step 1, don't fight alone. Gather a core team of 3 to 5 highly trusted organizers. Step 2, eliminate those vague offers by delegating explicit logistics, comfort, and communication roles. Step 3, help the patient transition from a guilty doer to a strategic director, reframing the act of receiving help as a vital healing strategy. And Step 4, use a shared op to organize the team and manage all those daily details. This is the exact roadmap that transforms a solo caregiver's crushing burden into a co-managed, highly effective support system. Navigating a diagnosis is a tremendously long journey, but with the right team standing beside you, it's one you can actually survive together. To all the caregivers out there, you are the quiet heroes in this story. But hey, even heroes need backup. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought to consider right now. Look at your phone, scroll through your contacts. Who will be the first person you recruit to your core circle today? Take that first step, send that text, and start building your entourage. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we wish you and your loved ones the absolute best on the road ahead.